energies, which is why we are supplying natural gas to generate cleaner electricity that has around 50% fewer CO2 emissions than coal. And why, with our partner in Brazil, we are producing ethanol, a biofuel made from renewable sugarcane to fuel cars. Let's broaden the world's energy mix. Let's go.
Invest in remarkable Indonesia.
Because of our top stock-picking analysts, covering economies, monitoring currencies, and using their experience to create objective reports, our clients can make informed investing decisions. And that's why innovative research counts. Decisive research, informed investing. That's the power of global connections. Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. Voted top global research firm 2011-2012.
Build effective automated strategies using simple drag-and-drop technology with the innovative FX Pro Quant Strategy Builder. FX Pro. Trade Forex like a pro.
You never know where or when the next big story will unfold. Bloomberg, never missing a detail of the global picture.
Open a SpreadX account and get an iPad mini at any of the following trade levels. Terms and conditions apply.
Crunch time for Nestle. Europe's biggest company posts the slowest revenue growth in years. Summer's late start has apparently hit frozen food sales.
Deutsche Telekom delivers in the US sales beat estimates as it attracts more customers and embarks on a spending spree to take on Verizon and AT&T.
Plus, Tod's takes a step forward. The shoemaker is one of today's big gainers as earnings beat expectations. Fellow Italian luxury firm Prada is about to report numbers. Good morning, good evening to our viewers in Europe and Asia respectively, and of course those just waking up in the United States. This is The Pulse. We're live from Bloomberg's European headquarters in London. I'm Guy Johnson.
I'm Francine Lacqua, and we have a little bit of breaking news from Prada. It hasn't crossed the Bloomberg terminal yet, so we'll get back to that very shortly. But we begin with sluggish growth at the world's biggest food company. Well, Nestle posts its slowest first half sales growth in 4 years, amongst the reason cold weather here in Europe. Now, our markets editor, Manus Cranny, joins us with the very latest. Manus, shares are a little bit lower this morning.
They are indeed. They're dragging the SMI, the Swiss Market Index, lower. Pizzas, Franny, and ice cream. Whether it's
we don't eat enough of them.
Yeah.
I've always said that.
Didn't buy them. I'm on a diet. Frozen food, frozen pizzas, ice cream, upmarket ice cream, Movenpick. You know, the moment of experience. Just not doing it in Europe. Sales in Europe. Underwhelmed would be the understatement of 2013. Market's looking for a growth of 1.5%. Bank comes in at 0.5%. Slow sales. I'm determined to get some of my stats in. But the reason why you look at Nestle and you think, yeah, you know what, these guys are thumping it out in emerging markets, but they're still not in the game, relatively speaking, to their peers. Unilever has 55% of the business in emerging markets. Danone has 42% of their business in emerging markets. And Nestle has 40%. Why do you want to be there? You want to be there because there's going to be 9.15 billion people, give or take a few, by the year 2050. That is why. I mean, I was trying to wrap around, you know, why do we talk about luxury? Why do we talk about Nestle? Why do we talk about Nespresso capsules? What the hell is it that we are fascinated by emerging markets for? The population of the world is going to be focused there. It's going to go up by 2 billion. It's going to go up in China. It's going to go up in India. It's going to go up in Pakistan.
But the margin story is fascinating as well.
Yes.
And this is kind of where you come back to how does the margin story compare for the products you've just been listing compared with some of the rivals? Are they getting a better margin out of the business that they're driving in the non-emerging markets, i.e. the developed world? The mix is important.
And if you look behind the numbers, I had a conversation with Jefferies this morning. They said, actually, okay, they've missed on a headline organic sales, right? Stand back, look at the numbers in the second quarter. Actually, their margins are improving. But that's through efficiencies, not through pricing. Pricing normally helps a company like Nestle. They're able to squeeze the prices higher to us.
Yeah, they're driving costs. They're doing things in the middle of the P&L, which is working for them at the moment.
Correct.
So it's hitting the bottom line very nicely. This is what you want to do, isn't it?
So that begs the question, do you see this as an opportunity or not? In terms of Nestle, you know, again, it's thanks to our Bloomberg industry team, I got to say. These guys, okay, European food producers over the past 4 years, 2008 to 2011, pumped out 72 billion euros worth of dividends. Nestle paid nearly 50% of that amount out to shareholders, and when it comes to share buybacks, they've got good history. They were the biggest share buyback during that period, 2008 to 2012. So you've had a down sweep on the stock. Bit of emerging markets, you stand back and you go, well, really? Do I really want to own them? Is the world really going to change? When you see that kind of history and precedent, and you see the stock cheapen up, it could well be, an opportunity. But I'll leave you with that thought. Nespresso capsules, Franny, you obviously have been very busy in Selfridges, and you too, because they're seeing an accelerated growth in the little baby capsule, and that's where the money comes
I get mine online.
Yeah, it's a premium chip.
He's all digital.
Yeah, well, guys,
shopping experience.
Non-fussy,
what happened?
Non-fussy online shopper. But it's interesting, they may be also going through more healthcare. That's an experience.
It's a luxury item.
It's a small luxury.
George Clooney.
Unfortunately. Now, it's the latest sign of tension between the U.S. and Russia. President Obama cancels next month's summit with President Putin because of the Kremlin's decision to shelter the NSA whistleblower Ed Snowden.
Now, the two leaders were due to meet in Moscow ahead of the G20 meeting in St. Petersburg. Ryan Chilcott joins us now with the latest developments. And let's put this into perspective, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it doesn't come as a complete surprise. Ever since Snowden showed up in the transit area of that Moscow airport, the White House got very cagey about whether President Obama was actually going to go to this summit. Having said that, it was sort of a waiting game to see whether the Russians were actually going to then provide Snowden with temporary asylum. When they did, I think everybody, was pretty much looking at this as a fait accompli. The issue, however, is not just Snowden. We had President Obama yesterday on Jay Leno, which is normally, comedy TV show. However, President Obama had a lot of things that weren't so funny to say about the Russian relationship. He said that he was displeased with the Russians, said they often slip into Cold War thinking. He was displeased with the lack of progress when it comes to disarmament. And the last thing he said, and I think this is important, is he doesn't like Russia's position, the Kremlin's position on gay and lesbian rights. New law out in Russia that many people see as infringing on gay and lesbian rights. And he says he simply has no interest in dealing with countries that have those kinds of policies. So pretty tough language from the U.S. president.
How big of a deal is this, Ryan?
The thing is that there is a lot. It is a big deal in the sense that there is a lot to be said for pageantry and symbolism. So these things, these summits don't get canceled very often. It was 2 months ago that they announced it. Once you announce it, you're supposed to do it. You actually have to go back to 1960 to find another U.S.-Russian summit being canceled. That was by Nikita Khrushchev. He canceled a summit with Eisenhower over an incident with a U.S. spy plane. I think, sort of geopolitically, what does it mean in terms of the relationship to the two countries? When President Obama came into office, he announced the so-called reset, basically taking a pragmatic approach to the relationship with Russia, less of an ideological approach that George W. Bush had. George W. had a very tempestuous relationship with the Russians. It started well, but it ended quite poorly. And I think, what we're seeing here is maybe the end of the reset and a beginning of the relapse, if you will, of the relations we saw between the U.S. and Russia towards the end of George W.'s administration.
Yeah, Gary Powers and Ed Snowden, I guess maybe you can put them in a similar sort of bracket. Let's talk about the bigger picture here, though. To what extent is this an excuse? You've got Syria going on, you've got a whole range of other aspects that the White House, the State Department are going to be looking at. How much of this is to do with all those other things, and this is simply the straw that broke the camel's back?
I think this is the straw that broke the camel's back. I think that's what exactly what this is. But let's not forget what's at stake. So it's not so much about this summit itself, because, like you said, there was really not a whole lot that pragmatically the two sides, I think, felt that they could accomplish, or at least the U.S. administration that initiated the cancellation felt that it could accomplish. But, there is the G20 summit later in the week, in the first week of September. President Obama is still going to that, but this makes it awkward. Would be interesting to be a fly on the wall in a bilateral, if they do have a bilateral meeting there, or at least to see their body language. Next year, Russia is the host of the G8 summits, and let's not forget Russia is also hosting the Winter Olympics. And there are some people out there, and I think this is a fringe element, but that are saying that the U.S., other countries, should actually boycott those Olympics.
Maybe the British can do well as a result of that. The last time, I think it was the Americans boycotted the Moscow Games, we had a British sprinter win the 100 metres. Which one?
Yeah. How does it play out in G20?
John Wells. I think it was John Wells, yeah.
All right, thank you. Now here's what else is on our radar this Thursday. The battle between two of the biggest tech giants continues. Last week, Apple avoided an iPhone 4 ban thanks to the White House. Now it's planning to ask a U.S. appeals court to block sales of some Samsung models. That's after a jury in California found that Samsung had violated some iPhone patents.
Hilton Worldwide has hired 4 banks. This as it plans to raise $13 billion to refinance its debt. The move comes in anticipation of the hotel chain going public in early 2014. The Blackstone Group, remember, bought Hilton for $26 billion back in 2007.
And Groupon has named Eric Levskovsky as its new permanent CEO. Levskovsky is the web company's co-founder and is still its biggest shareholder. Well, investors welcome the news. The stock rose as much as 19% in extended trading. Groupon also released earnings for the second quarter, reporting a smaller than projected net loss.
Now, coming up, a bit of nostalgia for Adidas, the sportswear brand's reviving its ties with the iconic hip-hop group Run DMC. We're going to take a look at what Adidas is hoping to achieve. This is its latest set of results. Pretty much disappointed everybody today.
Plus, later this hour, it's a company that challenges the world's most difficult dirt. Yeah, Henkel is the brand behind many of your household cleaners. We'll speak to the company's chief executive about his strategy for selling staples.
A25 from the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, powering the Israeli economy. Find more information at www.th25.co.il.
60 minutes to make your final trades, and only one show.
Time to see what makes this company tick.
One network and one anchor team has unrivaled access to Wall Street, K Street, and the world. Our insight.
We got your last chance dividends.
Your action. Get street smart with Trish Regan and Adam Johnson. Weeknights on Bloomberg Television.
This is the Bloomberg TV Plus iPad app. Find out what's moving markets anytime, anywhere.
The way to engage with Bloomberg and our team of reporters around the world, 24 hours a day.
Create your own playlist or download and watch them offline.
Plus exclusive interviews and special features you won't see on TV.
Download the Bloomberg TV Plus iPad app. Finally, business television on your iPad.
Okay, welcome back. You're watching The Pulse. Let's check in on those currency markets. 7-week highs for this pair. Look at what's going on. The euro really rebounding. This whole bet that the dollar was going to get a lot stronger a lot sooner seems to have not worked out for a whole bunch of people who were really the wrong way round on this trade and are now probably a little bit underwater. 133.54 is where we are trading. The percentage moves are not great, but the positioning obviously wrong for some people. Let's talk about the Carney effect on the British pound over the last couple of days. A lot of volatility in a number of asset classes here in Britain. This is the move. Initially, down we went. Then cables started to gain a little bit of strength, doubting Carney's ability to execute on his plan to deliver forward guidance. The MPC maybe not with him seems to be the sense at the moment, and the inability to divine what's going to happen with the inflation moving forward, maybe casting a long shadow over the bank's ability to actually have a clear idea of where employment is going to go or unemployment is going to go. So there we are, yeah, pound reaction positive, 155.03 is where we're trading right now. Fran, the big focus of this hour is what?
Well, of course, it's Adidas. We're taking a closer look at Adidas for the next few minutes. Its results missed analyst estimates today, and the sportswear maker cut forecast for the year because of lackluster sales in Europe. Now, in a bid to make its brand more desirable, the company is reviving ties to iconic hip-hop group Run DMC. The New York-based MCs were instrumentals in promoting Adidas as a street, not just a sportswear brand. Now, Bloomberg's Jonathan Farrow has more.
Run DMC and Adidas, the unlikely pairing of a German sportswear company and New York hip-hop royalty. This was the song that got them the attention. My Adidas, or Adidas, released in 1986, prompted the sports brand to sign a deal reportedly worth $1.5 million. Run DMC had already had gold and platinum selling albums, and the tie-up made the shoes standard issue for streetwear. The deal was the first tie-up of a music group and a major sportswear company, a trend that is common now but was groundbreaking back then. Adidas is now doing it again, bankrolling Run DMC's new track and releasing a run of limited edition superstar sneakers. A trainer designed for basketball that Run DMC took off the court and onto the street. And while it may have been the first tie-up of its kind, it's unlikely to be the last.
1986. I remember it at school. Yeah, I remember it.
I was too young.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. Okay, maybe a little lie. Now, here's what we want to know, though, on a serious point. Is this a smart move by Adidas? Is a company more valuable as a streetwear or a sportswear brand?
And what's the benefit of going all retro, and should other firms follow suit? Joining us now to discuss all of this is the Adidas on the Adidas brand strategy is Mark Joy. He's the director of strategy at sports marketing firm Fast Track. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
What is Adidas when it comes to a brand?
I mean, it's interesting to talk about it in the fashion context, because my predominant area of expertise is sport, and what they've really been fantastic at is delivering kind of authentic performance brands. So when you look at their sponsorship strategy in the sports world, it's the Olympics, it's World Cup, absolute crown jewels in terms of clubs and players and celebrities, but they've always had that kind of streetwear component to what they do. And sport is an interesting world because, of course, it goes up and down in even years. You get World Cups, you get Olympics that occurs in 12s and 14s and 16s. They also have the US issue, which is that Nike are still probably dominant in the US, whereas Adidas are doing very well elsewhere. So I kind of look at this as one, trying to stretch their credentials. It's less about performance, it's more about relevance to audiences, but it's also about how well they do in the US. And it's also about new audiences, or those older audiences. Their core audience is kind of 16 to 24, but Run DMC are plainly catering to an older audience.
But Mark, when you have a sportswear brand and you think Adidas is actually sportswear first and foremost,
I do.
And then you cross it over to either luxury or fashion or street cred, it's great, because then can you actually capture both markets?
Well, I think it's to do with the relevance of sport now is just growing all the time. You look at what a huge industry it is. You look at the way that London 2012 had an impact in the UK here. And the way we all wore sportswear, even though it was technical sportswear that the Team GB team were wearing, they were still wearing it in the street and felt, pleased to wear that. And I think sport now crosses over so much into lifestyle and into entertainment. And Adidas have got that niche piece about the three stripes. Has always been a kind of fashion idea as well. So being able to stretch the brand in that way is really strong. Adidas is still, for me, a performance brand, and that's why they back Lionel Messi and David Beckham and Barcelona and Chelsea and Spain and so on.
How you can compare and contrast it with others. Nike at one end, maybe increasingly technical, I would maybe argue. Puma at the other end, increasingly fashionable. It's okay for a brand like this to range between the two.
Yeah, and I think if you're a brand manager, you have to do a number of things. You have to grow the markets that are there, you have to do your best, you look at the competitive set, but you also have to be innovating as much as you can. And Adidas are an innovative company. They've continued to produce new product that's relevant to the audiences that they're after. So I look at this and I think of it as being something that a brand manager must have sat down and gone, how are we going to grow this year? And it might be how we're going to grow in an odd year, in a 13 as opposed to a 14 as well, to fill a financial gap.
They're filling a gap here.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like most brand strategies will be about, let's look at the natural highs and how will we fill those with new product, new ideas, new ways of talking to the audience. And I think Adidas is a brand that's been around long enough that it can be relevant to lots of age groups and lots of lifestyles. The sporting events will still, though, drive that big uplift, but you're happy to see David Beckham wearing fashion trainers as much as you are seeing him wearing technical sportswear.
What's more lucrative? Is it the sportswear market? You're a brand strategy.
Yeah.
Is someone, if you wear a trainer because you're a sports person, you will be a sports person all of your life.
Yeah.
If it's fashion, is it more volatile?
I guess I don't strictly know the answer to that. I still think sport is their starting point for this, and I think whenever you see their brands in a social context, you still see them as sporting wear that's being extended into use in there. So I still, for me, their sponsorship strategy would suggest that sport is a much bigger part of their business. They're talking about £2 billion worth of football by 2014, and so I think they're a sports brand with football at the heart, but uses that in a kind of social context to extend into fashion.
How does it work from a generational point of view? Run DMC is a really interesting choice of bands to use, and the Walk This Way thing really worked for them initially.
Yeah.
But you've got a demographic that kind of was wearing trainers in the 1980s and has grown up sort of wearing trainers, and they're probably still willing to wear trainers in the way that maybe the generation before that wasn't.
Yeah.
Are they kind of, is this something they've never really had to deal with before, i.e. the generation that potentially isn't wearing as many trainers as before but doesn't have the necessary cultural resistance to doing it?
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting. I think one of the things that will enable them to do is to showcase their kind of history of product.
Yeah.
Because actually, if you meet kind of real fans of Adidas, you'll see that they've got dozens of trainers in immaculate condition in boxes in the cupboard. So they've got this kind of showcase of the product that they've developed over the years. I think the idea of re-energizing the older age group, but also having a kind of relevance through hip-hop to a younger generation is absolutely right. It still feels to me as though, had they done an older group and a younger group, or looked at something across the generations, that might have been even smarter, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, 40 years old. Just throw that out there, just to put a bit of age into it.
Great. It's size and scope. You always get that on Bloomberg. Mark, thank you so much. Mark Joy there of Fast Track. Now, as we head to break, you've heard of snakes on a plane. What about a shark on a subway?
That's not the name of a new B-grade movie, though what you see here may have been inspired by what happened on TV. The Discovery Channel's Shark Week got very real for some New York commuters. A dead 4-foot-long shark was discovered on a subway train heading out of Manhattan. I think it was going to Coney Island. How it got there remains something of a mystery. A sad mystery.
The only program with a pulse on the coolest in business. Weeknights on Bloomberg Television. First up with Susan Lee, the only way to start your trading day. Winner of Best News Program at the Asian Television Awards.
We're coming right off the close in New York, and we'll get you everything you need to know first.
With industry insights from top guests and CEOs, breaking news and headlines, plus the latest in Japan, South Korea, and Australia as markets open.
If it happens in Asia, we'll have it first.
First up with Susan Lee, only on Bloomberg Television.
Why start your day with anything else?
You never know where or when the next big story will unfold. Bloomberg Media Services cover the world with more than 2,200 news and multimedia professionals at 145 bureaus in 68 countries. Bloomberg, never missing a detail of the global picture.
Now, 3 years ago, Israeli stocks were upgraded to developed market status. The move was heralded as a sign of success, but it brought problems. Israeli companies now have to compete with the US, Europe and Japan for investor attention. Now, for more on all of this, here's Blue Star Global Investors founder and chief investment officer. He's Stephen Schoenfeld, an exchange-traded fund based on a Blue Star index that has outperformed Israel's benchmark index this year. He joins us now from Tel Aviv. Stephen, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to speak to you. Just give me a sense of how the global ETF industry give actually exposure to investors, to Israeli companies and the economy.
Sure, Francine. Good morning. There's now an ETF that tracks our index, the Blue Star Israel Global Index, listed on the New York Stock Exchange. That means that investors can trade in the U.S. time zone and get exposure to a benchmark that includes both Israeli stocks listed here in Tel Aviv, but also Israeli stocks listed abroad, including the U.S., the UK, and even Poland. This gives investors exposure to a broader and more diversified portfolio of Israeli companies, which, as you mentioned, is more diversified and has outperformed the local Tel Aviv index.
So, Stephen, would it be fair to say that then therefore investors would be missing out if they just have exposure to Tel Aviv-listed companies?
That's absolutely the case. Israeli companies are very global in nature, just as the Israeli economy is, and therefore many of them list abroad, and many of them are household names that investors across Europe and the U.S. are familiar with. For example, SodaStream, which is in the kitchens of many of your viewers, is listed in New York, not in Israel. And so by ignoring Israeli companies that are listed outside of Israel, investors are not getting complete exposure. And in fact, in our index, we include about $40 billion of market cap that would otherwise be missing in not just the local Tel Aviv index, but also the MSCI and FTSE indexes for Israel, which both focus only on Tel Aviv-listed stocks.
Yeah, and Stephen, we were talking to the chief executive of Mellanox just last week, and he was saying similar things, which is why he's now traded in the States. What does the Tel Aviv Bourse now need to do to attract or even retain some of these technology companies?
Well, Israeli companies, as I mentioned, are global, and it's understandable, especially that tech companies want to be close to their customers. They also are very attracted to the U.S. market because they get analyst coverage, which can often lead to higher valuations. However, as investors recognize that Israel is more than just information technology. It also includes agricultural technology, biotech, defense tech. I believe that some of these companies might consider dual listing. The exchange also can do a number of things to attract these dual listings, working with the regulators to better harmonize the listing rules. And although my good friends here in the Tel Aviv financial community won't necessarily appreciate this, I do think the Tel Aviv exchange could extend its hours so it has more overlap with London and New York. Right now it has only about 1 hour overlap with New York.
Stephen, thanks so much for all of that. Stephen Schoenfeld, there, the Chief Investment Officer of Blue Star Global Investors. Guy.
Yeah, we've got some golf coming up next here on The Pulse. The PGA Championship tees off today stateside. What gear is going to be on the greens this year? We're going to talk to American Golf's head of marketing. This is the leaderboard at the moment in terms of the world rankings. We'll see you after the break.
Open a SpreadX account and get an iPad mini at any of the following trade levels. Terms and conditions apply.
A simple vaccine was all that was needed to save their young lives. But the vaccines needed to be kept cold, from 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, against our African heat. Then Econet, through its Energize the Chain program, installed close proximity refrigerated containers. These simply use the excess power from the wireless base stations.
By creating innovative solutions, Econet Wireless is promoting community transformation and joins the fight against the top 5 child killer diseases. Econet Wireless, inspired to change your world.
The pursuit to success is relentless. You strive continuously. You learn constantly. you measure your performance daily. New lower target spreads on all FX spot crosses. Start trading with lower target spreads today. Make the trade. Saxo Capital Markets. Losses can exceed your initial deposit.
Graf Diamonds celebrates 60 years in the jewelry industry. The maker of some of the world's finest and most expensive jewels gives Bloomberg a rare insight into the company.
Very often clients will ask us to meet them in extraordinary places or send their jets for us. So it's all very James Bond, but quite frankly, to them it's their daily lives.
Do they have names, diamonds?
Some diamonds do,
Do they?
yes. This one doesn't. But we can name it the Bloomberg diamond.
There you go. Deal. I'll shake on that. Join us on Friday for an in-depth look into the world of Graf.
At Shell, we believe the world needs a broader mix of energies. To move, to work, to light up a midweek match. That's why, with our partner in Brazil, we're producing ethanol, a biofuel made from renewable sugarcane. Let's broaden the world's energy mix. Let's go.
Invest in remarkable Indonesia.
Smart Trader puts the same effort into choosing a broker as he does into choosing when and which markets to trade. For tight fixed spreads combined with fast execution and a host of free trading tools, Intertrader.com is the smart trader's choice. Become an Intertrader today to receive a welcome bonus of up to £5,000. First deposit over £500 increased by up to 10% to a maximum of £5,000. Terms and conditions apply.
Here are Bloomberg top headlines. Yemen's government says it's uncovered an al-Qaeda plot to attack strategic ports and oil facilities. The announcement comes after a global alert that has seen Western embassies evacuated. U.S. and British nationals have been urged by their countries to leave Yemen. China's trade rebounded in July, the latest sign that the economy may be stabilizing after 2 quarters of slowing growth. Exports and imports both rose by more than economists had predicted. Exports to the U.S. and the EU, China's biggest markets, rose for the first time in nearly half a year. And with Germany's election just over a month away, Angela Merkel's main election opponent is gaining in the polls. According to Forsa, Peer Steinbrück's SPD rose a percentage point to 23%, while its main ally, Green Party, also saw its popularity increase. And Merkel's challengers are taking advantage of the German chancellor being on vacation, but she is still in the lead with a 40% in the polls. Now, over the last couple of minutes, we just had some figures from Prada. This is the Italian luxury fashion house listed in Hong Kong. This is what the numbers came out. Now, they've had some pretty good results overall over the last couple of quarters. Now, sales pretty much in line with expectations. They also said same-store sales growth were up some 7%. Now, why is Prada such a success when other luxury brands are falling behind a bit? A lot of investors say they have a great model. It's because you can only buy back for about 5-6 months so that the wealthy come in time and time again to get products that then become out of line. Now let's take a look at how European markets are trading. Our markets editor Manus Krani is at the touchscreen with the very latest. Manus.
Hey Francine, equity markets a little bit higher on the day. It looks like Germany and China have trumped the taper talk from the Cleveland Federal Reserve last night. Equity markets rising, German trade surplus doing quite nicely. U.S. futures are expected to rise. It's the jobless number today, 335,000 is what we're looking at. I want to give you a quick view, a trip around the world. There's the European markets, London, Paris, Frankfurt doing well. Deutsche Telekom building on the DAX. In London you've got Rio, and in Paris up 0.3%. On the currency front, the world seems a little bit suspicious of Mark Carney's ability at the Bank Bank of England to keep rates low for longer, longer than the market had anticipated. Even Goldman Sachs, his alma mater, suggested that the unemployment rate they were looking for was 6.5%, not the 7% that Connie delivered yesterday. Sterling rises 155.13 is where she is. And in terms of dollar yen, Bank of Japan leaves stimulus unchanged, and we're unchanged on the day. 96.33. Go buy some handbags out of Prada. Back to you, Guy.
Manus, thank you very much indeed. Let's go from handbags to sportswear. The PGA Championship kicks off today in the US. Tiger, the favourite going into the tournament. There'll be a bit of pressure from the defending champion, Rory McIlroy. Didn't do well at the Open, has had a few gear issues recently. Joining us now to talk about what gear you could have to improve your game as we get into the swing of things is pro golfer Nick Rose and American Golf's head of marketing, Dan Gaither-Cole. Gentlemen, nice to see you. You got plenty of clubs with you. McIlroy's had a few issues with his clubs recently, or so he says. How important is all this latest technology to improving your game?
Massively important. You can really change your ball flight. The new equipment has got hotter faces, the ball goes further, clubs are getting lighter.
Yep.
As an example, this new tailor-made SLDR.
Yep.
What you can do with this guy is you said you were...
Swing it around to... Yeah, I've got a bit of a hook, so how are we going to fix my hook?
We'll give you a little bit of a hook. This weight's on the bottom here. I could move that towards the toe end.
Right.
That makes the toe heavy, and that will stop the club from closing. So if you're a hooker, you want the weight up this end of the golf club. If you're a slicer, you want it down this end. There's actually 25 different settings on this golf club.
Wow.
So you can move it. It goes anywhere along that slider there. You can also change the loft on the golf club.
Yep.
The key is it needs to be fitted for you.
Right. As always, fitted set of golf clubs. Don't just buy them off the shelf.
Exactly. Come into store and we'll put it to the right spec, and I guarantee I'll stop your hook.
If you can do that, I'm
That's been used by Justin Rose and Dustin Johnson this week in the PGA.
Right. In terms of people don't replace their golf clubs that often. How much? But we are now starting to see these more customisable clubs becoming more commonplace. Like when I had my last set of clubs fitted, they were fitted in the they were sort of set up in the factory. They were sort of made to the specifications of that I had. But it's much more customisable now.
Yeah, it's huge.
Does that bring people back into store?
Yeah, definitely. There's a huge trend. So we did some testing for drivers and irons recently in American Golf, where we tested over 1,600 customers, came in with their current driver, current iron. Yep. We got them on the simulator, so you hit into a screen, see the yardage. Not that one. Have problems if you hit into that one. So, and we saw 11 yards increase in the driver and 8 yards increase in the iron.
It's probably easier to see alterations on a driver. It's a much more it's a bigger piece of kit.
There's much more variables on the driver.
Yeah. What about my irons?
Well, irons, I mean, this is the new Mizuno iron. I mean, Guy's probably the guy to talk to for... Nick's probably the guy to talk to on this. You know, he's the expert.
Are renowned for doing real players' golf clubs.
Yep.
A real traditional-looking golf club. But we all need forgiveness. We all miss-hit shots. So what Mizuno have done here, they've made a progressive set of clubs that have got cavity backs in the long irons. And it's made of their forged material, as opposed to some golf clubs are cast.
Yep.
Excellent feel, traditional look, fantastic golf club.
Again, needs to be fitted though.
It needs to be fitted. You need to have the correct length, the correct flex of shaft, and the correct lie angle. This is this angle here. That all needs to be altered. We're all different sizes, different arms and legs, so the clubs need to be fitted for you like you would a suit.
I have to say the one thing that I've really noticed over the last few years is A, the evolution we've seen in drivers, but B, the technology that's now appearing. You've now got things you can wear on your glove that are going to measure your swing and give you an idea of kind of how to change the shape of the swing. You've got all kinds of technology to tell you where your ball is on the course and all this sort of stuff. How much is that changing the game, and how much of that stuff is now selling?
Yeah, huge. I mean, this is the latest Garmin S2 GPS. You know, you can stand up on any course, over 30,000 courses worldwide, get up onto the tee, and it'll tell you how far it is to the front, middle, and back of the green, and it'll tell you where to lay up.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a dog leg, left, right. Fantastic. So I mean,
and people are buying this stuff.
Yeah. People are. I mean, these in terms of sales, these are double year on year. It's absolutely huge.
And you want to wear it on your wrist, or you want to have it attached to your...
You can get ones where you wear as a watch. So this actually tells the time, and you get up to the course, and it literally just automatically downloads the course as you get there. You don't even have to do anything. It's great. Or you can get little handheld ones, like a little bit like a sat nav for a car, where you turn up and you just,
Yep. Plug it on.
Pencil a few things in and you're there, yeah.
You're both wearing very natty shoes. I have to say, 10 years ago, if I'd have worn those shoes on a golf course, I'd have had the greenkeeper coming up to me and saying, on your bike, son.
Yeah, I think today it's all about comfort. You're walking a few miles around the golf course.
3-4 hours, yeah.
Adidas, really comfortable trainers, they now make golf shoes, and these ones in particular are pimple-soled, so that when the ground's hard, it's less tiring.
Yeah, that doesn't happen that often in this country, but yeah.
That's true. It is at the moment, though.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that a few of the top players, Ernie Els, Fred Couples, have started using this type of sole, and then notorious for having back problems. So perhaps there's something in that it's not hurting their back anymore just by wearing a different, more comfortable shoe.
It's a long walk ruined, as somebody once said, but at least it's now going to be comfortable. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Looking forward to the championship kicking off. Dan Gathercole and Nick Ross up here on the tee. Fran, back over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Guy. Now, in just 20 minutes, it's Surveillance with Tom Keane. I don't know if Tom's actually a golfer or not, but he joins us from New York now with the preview. Tom, I know you'll be focusing on Adidas, on sportswear. Do you golf?
I don't golf, but I was a caddy years ago at Oak Hill Country Club. That's where this weekend's PGA will be in Rochester, New York. It brings back a lot of really wonderful memories from my childhood. What I know is the game has changed. You see it there with those fancy clubs. No, Francine, I don't golf. I read economic textbooks. There's a difference. What we've got going on here today, sneakers, Adidas, and did you say Adidas or Adidas? Which did you say?
Adidas.
Oh, please. Adidas and Nike, of course, it's a sneaker wars. Nike seems to be winning. We'll look at that. We'll, of course, look at Tesla Motors. What a juggernaut. Barclays loves the story, even with an equal weight. And we will talk about, well, the president will not be traveling to visit with Mr. Putin, although we will go to the G20 meeting in St. Petersburg. Within that and with the August day, the market's moving as well.
Tom, I wonder whether, I'm absolutely fascinated on Mr. President Obama now saying that he won't go to that summit. Will it have repercussions in the States politically?
I don't know about politically in the States, but it did make quite a splash yesterday. We will speak with Richard Haass, the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, Ambassador Haass, with his wonderful perspective. CFR's done some recent, very strong work on Russia. But within that was a quiet August, a quiet Washington, all of that with a lot going on in product and business, and again, focusing on Tesla. And okay, I'll say it, Francine, Adidas, there's no one that says Adidas in America.
I know, but you're the first and the best, Tom. We're going to get your European passport. Tom, who reads, of course, economic books as a hobby. My only hobby is hanging out in cafes or variations thereof. Tom Keane with Surveillance in 20 minutes from now. Now, coming up, the 3D printer can make a lot of things, but can it make money? Israeli company Stratasys has reported its first set of results since buying MakerBot, and that could provide insight into how the industry is growing. More on that next.
CFA Institute, shaping a financial industry that better serves society.
Throughout the ages, Thailand has captivated people with its unique culture, history, and natural beauty. And now it's entering a new era. Thailand's talented, diverse, and innovative workforce have brought forward sustainable growth and enabled exciting developments throughout the country. It's time for you to experience everything Thailand has to offer. Thailand Rising.
Build effective automated strategies using simple drag-and-drop technology with the innovative FX Pro Quant Strategy Builder. FX Pro. Trade Forex like a pro.
Open a Spreadex account and get an iPad mini at any of the following trade levels. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you ready for business in brief?
Bloomberg Briefs puts the power of Bloomberg to work for you with over 15 industry-specific newsletters available only by subscription. Each offers proprietary data, researched and written by acknowledged experts. Top analysts, dedicated economists, senior business editors, all presented in a concise, uncluttered environment.
It gives me the edge I need.
Go to BloombergBriefs.com right now for your free 30-day trial.
Bloomberg Markets is the world's leading magazine in finance, covering the people, firms, and deals that move markets, featuring the industry players you want to know more about, giving you an insider's view of the world's most private firms, providing in-depth analysis on the business deals that happen behind closed doors, and covering emerging industries with insight and context. If you want the unique access and perspective that can only be found in Bloomberg Markets magazine, subscribe today at BloombergMarkets.com.
Welcome back. You're watching The Pulse. We're live in London on Bloomberg Television and Radio. Let's get you some company news now. The Italian high-end shoemaker Tod's has beaten analyst estimates with its latest set of earnings, and it's confirmed its outlook for further profits and sales growth this year as well. Shares higher on that news. And fellow Italian luxury firm Prada also reporting numbers in the last few minutes. It's posted first-half same-store sales growth of 7%. Staying in Italy, Monte dei Paschi has reported a fifth straight quarterly loss. It's been hit by the cost of state aid and higher provisions for bad loans. The Italian bank is still waiting for European regulators to approve its latest restructuring plan for 4.1 billion euros of state aid. And bad loans also weighing on Commerzbank as profits fall 84% in the second quarter. The German bank, which was forced into an 18.2 billion euro state bailout back in 2009, said yesterday it would shrink the executive board and reduce senior management positions as part of an overhaul. Francine, a bit of 3D in 2D. Over to you.
Yeah, a little bit of 3D guy. Now, Stratasys, the maker of 3D printers, has reported better than estimated earnings this morning. It's the first set of results since paying $400 million for rival MakerBot. Now, Stratasys says more acquisitions are on the way. Our Middle East editor, Elliot Gotkin, has more on the Israeli company.
It's not exactly mass production, but the 3D printers assembled here by Stratasys are part of an industrial revolution transforming the way things are made. The company itself is also seeing radical change.
This is the Connex 500.
CFO Erez Simcha says the merger with Israel's Objet and recent acquisition of MakerBot are just the start.
We established an internal group here in Stratasys that is in charge on M&A activity. So it's a group of 10 people, 10 to 11 people. All they do is look for new technologies, new business model, new company for acquisition, and other way or other models for us to grow non-organically.
Even without deals, things are moving fast, albeit from a relatively small base. Sales of industrial-grade printers grew by a fifth last year to just under 8,000 units. Personal 3D printer sales rose by nearly half to 35,000, making the industry worth a record $2.2 billion. By 2017, this figure could treble.
In the future, we expect tens of thousands to be sold annually, especially as the low-cost personal 3D printers that currently sell for under $5,000, many under $2,000. Once they bridge that gap from basic consumer grade to a more professional level product, then those machines will begin to sell in big numbers.
Clearly, this is an industry in which scale matters.
These are among the biggest and certainly the most expensive 3D printers that Stratasys has ever made. They're not due to hit the market until later this year, but when they do, they'll enable users to make everything from car dashboards to wheels to bike frames, as well as rather funky-looking tools.
For now, 3D printers like these are mainly used to make prototypes, which are then mass-manufactured by traditional means. Yet that could change.
If I was asked what's going to be in the next 20 years for 3D printers, manufacturing facilities are gone. China is the green garden of the world, and you do whatever you like at home. Your clothes, your food, your toothbrush, whatever you like.
One day, one can only presume 3D printers might even be able to make themselves. Elliot Gotkin, Bloomberg, Rehovot, Israel.
I don't know what that thing was that he was actually holding. He said it was a tool for some description, but I'm now fascinated. I'm going to email him. Anyway, coming up, Coming Clean, the consumer maker Henkel will be coming up next. We're going to dig into its earnings report. It beat estimates. The company's CEO will be with us next here on The Pulse.
Finally, business TV on your iPad. Introducing Bloomberg TV Plus. It's Bloomberg Television live 24/7. plus original programming, exclusive interviews, and an extensive library of on-demand shows. With related content, personalized playlists, and the ability to download videos for offline viewing, Bloomberg TV Plus is in a class by itself. Consider all future vacation time officially compromised. Sorry. Download the free iPad app today.
This is the Bloomberg TV Plus iPad app. Find out what's moving markets anytime, anywhere.
A way to engage with Bloomberg and our team of reporters from around the world 24 hours a day.
Create your own playlist or download videos and watch them offline.
Plus, exclusive interviews and special features you won't see on TV.
Download the Bloomberg TV Plus iPad app. Finally, business TV for your iPad.
To make your final trades, and only one show,
Time to see what makes this company tick.
one network, and one anchor team has unrivaled access to Wall Street, K Street, and the world. Our insight.
We got your last chance dividends.
Your action. Get street smart with Trish Regan and Adam Johnson. Weeknights on Bloomberg Television. First, Bloomberg.
10 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back. You're watching The Pulse. We're live on Bloomberg Television. We're on the radio. We're streaming on the iPad, Bloomberg.com. We've got the Windows phones covered as well now. Let's show you what's been happening in the currency markets. Euro dollar trading at 7-week highs. We are at 133.53. That long dollar bet that many people put on at the beginning of the summer has been a bumpy ride. And as you can see, it certainly hasn't been working out for everybody. Quick look at the Carney effect as well. Yesterday, Mark Carney, the new governor at the Bank of England, unveiled forward guidance he hoped would maybe act as a way of bringing down rates here in the UK. The market doesn't believe that he's going to have the effect that he thinks he's going to have at the moment, as a result of which, while the pound initially went down, it then bounced back very strongly versus the dollar, 155.05. Minutes are out next week. He's making a big speech in Nottingham towards the end of the month.
Now, German consumer products maker Henkel is out with second quarter profit that beat analyst estimates. It's a brand that makes such recognizable products as Vernal fabric softener and Loctite glue. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Loctite, I think you pretty much nailed that one.
Great. Thumbs up.
Okay. The company's chief executive is Casper Rorsted. Casper, very nice to see you this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be back.
Emerging markets performing well.
Yeah, we had a very strong quarter, 4% growth overall, almost 9% in the emerging markets, and on the big countries, 3 out of 4 were double-digit, which drove our operating profit up to 15.4, all-time high, and 10% EPS growth. In summary, 45% of our business coming from the emerging markets, so big dependency on continued growth in the emerging markets.
Casper, how much is the emerging market sales? How much are they going to grow over the next 5 to 6 years? Of course, more people will become wealthy there. There's this emerging middle class. How many more of your products will they buy longer term?
We think that within the next 4 years, 50% of our business will be coming from the emerging markets. So a growth rate in the emerging markets between a 5 and an 8, I don't think is an unrealistic expectation over the next years to come. But it will be a bumpy ride because in certain areas of political situations and in other areas because of monetary tightness. But 5 to 8, I think, is quite realistic expectations set over the next 5 years.
You've always made it clear that you feel that this is a scale business. How do you improve your scale? How do you become bigger? How much of it's going to be organic and how much are you going to buy in?
Our target is to reach 20 billion by 2016, organic growth between 3 and 5. We have a complete debt-free balance sheet. So we believe there's still a lot of acquisitions to be done in the marketplace. Unfortunately, the large companies today also have very consolidated balance sheets, so you've got to be patient in order to get the right assets.
Where are those assets? Kind of where in particular are you looking for those assets, and which part of the portfolio do you think is most in need of them?
We think that there's some very attractive assets in Western Europe and the US when it comes to fast-moving consumer goods, and when it comes to our technology business, adhesive business, which impact you every day when you drive or use your iPhone. A lot of the interesting technologies are coming out of Japan.
And do you have a treasure trove for such acquisitions?
We've got no debt.
And we have no debt, so right now we're a patient company. We have no debt, and we generate 1.5 billion euro free cash flow every year. So we have a very, very strong war chest. But I think the important part in that context is to be patient and do what's strategically right instead of just spend for the sake of spending.
How much could you gear up?
Today we can do about 4.5 billion without changing our A rating, and as I said, we generate 1.5 billion every year, so next year will be approximately 5.5 to 6. So we have plenty of assets to spend, but right now we're focusing on continuing to improve our operational excellence, improve our execution, and deliver a 10% EPS also this year, which we've done for the last 4 years now.
Kasper, give us some fun facts. When we knew you were coming on, actually, Guy took me through some of the labs that you have, and I was absolutely fascinated because you have very different washing machines, right? You have 40 or 50 of them in your lab where you test different dirt.
So what we do have in our headquarters in Germany, we have, as you say, 50 different washing machines, and then we get dirty clothes from 50 different countries because people make their clothes different in different ways, so we bring that in to ensure that we develop the right detergents for that. We also have a basement with approximately 50 different toilets because toilets look different in the entire world, and we want to make certain that we develop the right products to clean toilets. And we have a lab for small kids, so we've put a lab in place to ensure that we interest small kids in the age 10 to 12 to ensure that we have a growth in people studying biology and chemistry. So we try to get young kids in their breaks and teach them all about what we can do in our company.
What's the hardest to get out of clothes? I have small children, and I have to say there seems to be many of them.
Blueberries.
Yeah, blueberries is certainly on the list.
Banana, if you leave it for a long time, banana stains is not that easy if you leave it for a long time. Wine for a long time, but most of our products actually are quite effective at getting the stains out. The best way of getting stains out is wash it when it gets dirty and use our products.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's according to you, which is fair enough.
I have a wife who's just sort of constantly, with small children, sort of constantly feeding the washing machine. I think it's sort of...
Kasper, is it different what you sell to, is it really vastly different because of the dirt, because of what we eat? Is it different what you sell to India? Is it different to what you sell to China, to South America?
Well, very much, because it's really depending on the culture. In Western world, you would pretty much wash your clothes every time after one use. In a lot of other countries, you wash your clothes having used it 4, 5, or 6 times. So the level of power or quote cleanness you want is very different. In Western Europe, you want to have glass out of your washing machine or dishwashing machine where you have it's completely clean, and you look upon it and you say there's no stains on it. In Eastern